Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. This is our show for Monday, December 11th. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatown, clearly trying to get in the holiday spirit, trying to manifest some tropical vibes, some Mele Kalikimaka, if you will, here in the Brooklyn bunker today, heading up to snowy Saratoga a little bit later on. Looking forward very much to that. Kim Weir will be joining me on the train. We'll be brainstorming about all things holiday, thoroughbred, retirement foundation related. But there's some work to do before we get on that train. And to be fair, before we meet at the bar a couple hours before we get on that train. And that is the business of doing this week's early week show. And to do that with me, we bring in a man who's already in Saratoga. He's Jonathan Kinchin. What's up, JK?
What's going on? Yeah, look, nothing wrong with taking the train up here. It's one of my favorite things to do. I like to hit that sandwich spot in the Moynihan station, Alidoro.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot. Usually I have to send the menu to my in-laws to help me understand what all the things are, the Italian things are. But it is a delicious sandwich.
You're getting the gabagool? What are we talking about?
No, it's some super size, whatever. But I will see. I'm trying my hardest, but I will say this as well. There's that fun little like brewery beer thing in there. I was getting a little 4-pack for the road.
Nice. I don't know any of these places. You've clearly been traveling by train more than me. Is that like in the food court there, or are they
so there's the Alidoro is like in the main food court area. There's a bunch of stuff in there. There's a burger spot that hits. There's a bunch of stuff in there. And then kind of around the corner, same like area terminal, there is like, I can't remember the name of the brewery, but like sells their beers in there. They have a nice little hazy IPA. I feel like the name of the beer is called For All Kind, maybe.
Okay. I'll look for it, man. And if I can't find it, I'm going to be bothering you from the station. We were talking about going maybe to the Dead Rabbit little Christmassy pop-up for a late lunch and then heading up your way. And this might just sound like a typical tangent of us just being idiots on the show, but it's actually a brilliant segue since we're talking about coming from New York City to head up Saratoga way in the exact same manner that will be happening for the Belmont Stakes come this June. Belmont at Saratoga. We talked about it a little bit last week when it was nearly official. Now it is official, JK, and it seems like anybody in the racing world wants to talk about it this slow news time of the year.
Yeah, it's funny enough, a friend of mine, Robert Chow, texted me and said, "Hey, are they moving the Belmont to Saratoga?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I'm going to a wedding there." Right? Given this is a person from Texas who is going to a wedding from someone from Texas who happens to be getting married in Saratoga on Belmont weekend. And I said, oh, they're going to be in for quite a surprise.
I hope they booked a nice hotel block way in advance, JK.
Exactly. Yeah. Because to that point, I looked the Hampton Inn, the one that's right over there by Walt Whitman Brewery, is $1,200 a night. Last I checked. The Adelphi, $3,000 a night. Last time I checked. So I've heard rumors of people staying in Schenectady already. So I would try to start making arrangements now.
I'll tell you what, it is a great area of the country beyond Saratoga, and especially if you're just coming up for one day. I would not give the likes of, I don't even want to say the brand names, of Hotel X. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of letting them gouge me like that. I would look Tri-Cities, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, my favorite. Troy reminds me so much of Brooklyn a few years ago. I mean, these are probably very reasonable places to stay, and then just travel in. Like I said, don't give them the satisfaction. I'd rather spend the money on somebody to drive me around than have to deal with that. And I guess that does bring up one of my concerns. We talked about this last week, and we focused wholly on the positive, the fun aspects of it. And there are plenty of those, and we'll get to those. I'm not looking to be negative Nelly over here, but I do have some concerns, as those hotel prices, attest to, about what this is all going to cost, JK. And if, because sometimes I can be a little, not obnoxious, but I can be a little insensitive in the sense that we're so lucky as industry people to get to go to these great events and experience them. Usually, we're working. So it's just the festivity costs are essentially free because we're working, but not the case for other people. And one thing I do not want Belmont at Saratoga to become, and hopefully it won't. We don't know a lot of specifics yet, but hopefully it's not going to become a price gouging situation. There was a good article in the TDN by TD Houghton, and he talked about the very old days. This is even before my time, JK. But one of the things about racing that used to be really cool was it was the one sport where, you know, the big day you spend as much as just the average day. That's long out the window for reasons that we could get into on another show. But I don't want to see that taken to its extreme. And this has that potential if the folks putting on the party aren't careful.
Well, I mean, I think it's, I mean, in fairness, I mean, this is not me just being a company man. I think that it's less about the folks putting it on versus the old supply and demand, right? I mean, this is a situation where I think a lot of people are going to want to be a part of it. They're going to want to say that I was at the Belmont when it happened at Saratoga. It's also just fun to be able to come to, I mean, this has been my favorite place for a long time, but you and I both, quote unquote, kind of live here sometimes. So we always have the access to be able to come and hang out.
Me more so than you, who lives in Texas 51% of the time. For
100%, 100% accurate. But I just think that, like, the excitement and the buzz around it, you know, I think if they opened up the gates like they normally do for $10 to get into the backyard, it's something that might not actually work. It could become an uncomfortable event. They cap the Travers, they cap the Whitney. I would imagine they'll do the same here for the Belmont.
50,000. Yeah, I would.
Right, 50,000, which I think is fine. The one thing that I hope that they don't do, which I trust that they won't, I have no inside information, is limit the use of coolers. They don't limit the use of coolers on Travers Day. They don't limit the use of coolers on Whitney Day. Let's not limit the use of coolers for the backyard on Belmont Day. We want the backyard to still have that same feel, at least I do, for people to be able to come and enjoy it. I understand they're going to charge a more expensive ticket to get in for general admission. I would not be offended if general admission was $40 or $50 to get in, as long as they allow coolers. I also don't think that the concessions can handle all of those people that, if they aren't given the ability to bring in their own beverages and food, I just don't think that they would be able to handle it. And especially handle it at this time of the year where they're going to struggle, in my opinion, to be fully staffed like they are for the summer. So I'm hopeful that the coolers will be allowed.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, my case on, I hear what you're saying about supply and demand. That's a good counter argument to my argument. But here's my counter argument to your counter argument, which is, let's not forget that we're a gambling game, and that creating these experiences and getting people in the door. I don't know what happened to my voice. This is crazy, and I have nothing to drink. But getting people in the door is what it's all about. When it comes to a place like Saratoga, I think it's one of the best on-ramps for new customers, for new people to become excited with the sport of racing and everything that we do, and that those people can then become, you know, annuities for racing in the way that we are, people who go and we bet. And even though we work in racing, racing makes, whether we win or lose, racing makes a ton of money off us in the form of our handle. Let's think big picture. Let's not think, let's grab all the money we can around this special event for 2 years. Let's think this is something we can really do to hopefully, you know, showcase our sport to the best of its ability to the most people possible in a way that you're not priced out if you don't happen to have a ton of money. That's how I would like to see it play out for Belmont at Saratoga.
Well, counter to the counter to the counter. The last thing I'll say is I do think that, you know, and we can talk about this a little bit. One of the things we've talked about offline, and I've talked to other people about, is the logistics of it, right? And, you know, they're going to have to probably operationally spend more money on those 4 days than they might spend on a random 4 days at Saratoga, because they're going to have to probably, you're going to have to, you know, the person who runs the concession stand is not going to be in place for 8 weeks. You're going to have them, you're going to probably have to put them up in a hotel in Schenectady, pay for their travel to get, I mean, it's going to be a more expensive event to put on because of the nature that it's a 4-day window rather than, you know, kind of the big picture of the summer. I think that could be interesting. And like, also it's like, you know, the places like the Horseshoe and the places like Ciro's, are they going to be fully staffed up and ready to rock for a 4-day weekend? You know, I thought about our friend Des at the Post Bar. Is Des going to come up for the weekend and work just those 4 days? Where's she going to stay? In Schenectady? Where, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure she's got friends that she can stay with, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's an aspect of it that makes it a little bit trickier. The ticket writers I mean, those people are not Saratoga residents or tri-state area or or capital region residents. Those are people that come up from the city from the summer, or from Long Island for the summer. I just think there's some logistical things that are going to have to be handled.
For sure. I mean, you think back to Belmont, some of the bigger years, especially of Belmont, where there's clearly, I don't even know, hundreds of people who they bring in short term. It'll have to be that. It's the only way I can see to make it work. And your point about it costing them more is 100% correct. I mean, just think about the load in and load out. It's almost nuts for 4 days. I'm almost surprised they didn't try to do a little bit more or something just to justify having just bringing everything up and bringing it back downstate. But I think they decided this is the way that's going to make it work. I guess what makes me nervous, it makes me a little nervous that we've gotten this far in the process without the prices coming out. As somebody who has a stretch table, we're in pretty regular contact with them. And the fact that the numbers, it just intimidates me that the numbers haven't been announced yet. That does make me worry. And there was one line in the press release about prices being in accordance with previous Belmont Stakes festivals, which feels like code for saying there's going to be one, you're going to have to buy all 4 days. But anyway, look, I'm sure it's going to work out and the pricing is going to be, well, I don't want to be Pollyannish about it. I would like to think there's many, many scenarios in which this can work out and just be an absolute boon to New York racing. I'll feel a little bit better when we have all the specifics about the pricing in place. But you're confident it's going to be a good thing for the fans?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like anything. I mean, the Breeders' Cup it's not a cheap weekend. The Kentucky Derby, it's not a cheap weekend. A lot of Pegasus, not a cheap weekend. These higher tier events, where the everyday player, it spans outside the everyday player. The ticket prices just happen to go up a little bit, and it's. I would say that it's the same way for the NFL though, too, right? I mean, you can go watch. You probably could have went and watched the Bengals and the Browns play, and probably a pretty cheap ticket, But if you want to go on Sunday Night Football to watch the Eagles and the Cowboys play at Cowboy Stadium, it's going to be an expensive ticket, and I think that's just kind of how it works. So, I'm excited about it as a whole, though. I think it's going to be a pretty cool experience to be able to get up here in the spring. Usually the early summer. The weather is usually wonderful around that time of the year. It doesn't get too hot. Sometimes, especially with the way that Saratoga is laid out, being basically an outdoor racetrack, the weather can be nice. And plus, I think the other thing too in the summer is the city of Saratoga becomes very busy in the summer, not just because of horse racing. It's a destination in general in the summer, in the middle of the summer, in August. And so I think that it might actually be a little less crowded than you feel in the summer. I think, it's going to be a nice little experience, I think, for a lot of people. And I'm excited just about the racing ideas about it too, right? I mean, how cool would it be if the leader in the clubhouse now, Fierceness, is running for the Triple Crown at Saratoga for Rapoli Stables. I don't know what they're going to do from a crowd standpoint then if there's a Triple Crown alive, but I guess they'll probably keep it capped at 50,000. But either way, it should be a lot of fun.
It's going to be fascinating. Again, my biggest point about, I just see it as different than, going to see Hamilton on Broadway or, the Super Bowl as opposed to a random playoff game, just in the sense of we are this gambling game that has some PR issues. Let's not try to price out. Let's not go the full on elitist route, which I have to say, I love the Breeders' Cup. They're our biggest client and some of our best friends in racing. But what I always say about Breeders' Cup, when it comes to the smaller venues like Del Mar or Keeneland, is I do worry about that little guy being priced out as compared to, being able to have it in some bigger venues. And I want that to be kept in mind here. I think there's a happy medium. I don't think one of us is right and the other one's wrong. I think we're having a reasonable, intelligent conversation about the way these things could go. You said several interesting things, but the next one I want to jump right on is you talked about the idea of going for a Triple Crown. I mean, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't change the cap. I think what the attendance is what the attendance is, unless they have some way of getting the infield open, which I don't think they do up there. So, but how about this? If we do have a Triple Crown, I actually don't mind I don't mind the idea at all of the 10 furlong Belmont at Saratoga, because I think Triple Crown race, you're supposed to start in front of the track. And so I don't have a problem with that. The 1.5 mile start would be very, very awkward, like the middle of the turn. And yeah, I don't think that would be great. But I will say this, should a horse win the Triple Crown with a 10 furlong Belmont, I'd put him in a slightly different category than one who did it with the old test of the champion going 1.5 miles. What do you think about the general idea of a 10 furlong Belmont Stakes, and would it change your view at all of a horse who is able to annex all three?
Well, I don't necessarily have a problem with the asterisk, right? Like, it makes sense. Like, yeah, sure, put it there because it is different. But to me, the Triple Crown, the significance and the difficulty of the Triple Crown lie less with the 1.5 mile finish of the Belmont. It's more of the winning those 3 races over a 5-week span. To me, in being superior and overcoming racing luck, travel, 3 different racetracks, a 20-horse field, and being able to overcome all of those things are what make the Triple Crown special to me. So the fact that if a horse were to win the Derby at 1.25 miles, the Preakness at 1 mile and 3/16, and then show up and run in 1.25 miles at Saratoga, which I think will be a pretty full field. You know what I mean? It's not, I don't think this is a Belmont that people are skipping for the Haskell. It feels like people are going to show up for this race. I think a lot of people dodge 1.5 miles. Oh, this horse doesn't want to go 1.5 miles. I'm not going to do it. I think that this would be a pretty full gate, in my opinion, regardless of what's going on. So I think that I wouldn't have a problem with it. You wouldn't see me in a conversation arguing, well, but that one doesn't count. I don't think it would be that kind of asterisk. I think it's just something that, it was different. So that has to be noted.
Notably different. It's not insignificant. It doesn't take away in the sense that it doesn't take it into being something that's meaningless at all. It would still be incredibly impressive achievement. But I would, in my mind, I would view it a little bit differently. Now, pursuant to what you were just saying, another good area for conversation, let's say the 10 furlongs is wildly popular. Let's say we get 4 AEs this year and next for the Belmont Stakes. Anybody saying, oh, we should make it 1.25 miles permanently, I gotta go slow your roll on that one. That would, to me, would be a huge mistake, especially if they're reconfiguring Belmont but keeping the 1.5 mile oval. A Belmont Stakes starting at that, I don't like the Belmont 1.25 miles start at all, and to have that for a Triple Crown race, that just feels wrong for a number of reasons.
I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they'll do that. It's not something that I'm concerned about. I think they'll probably keep it at 1.5 miles. I don't see that being a decision that they would make. I will say this though, now that you've got my brain rolling here, about some of the other races that we enjoy that weekend, right? The Manhattan. Can they run 1.25 miles at Saratoga on the grass? Don't they have to start on the turn? That's one question. The other question is the Met Mile. Are they going to run that out of the Wilton chute?
Can we please not do that and move it back and run the Met Mile Memorial Day weekend and have that be a huge downstate deal? Like, why not for a couple of years and then just see what happens? I mean, look, you know how much I love the Met Mile. I've never thought that the Met Mile had to be the same day as the Belmont Stakes. I think it's a good enough race to carry its own day, to keep it at a proper 1-turn mile, like the way it's supposed to be. Any chance they'll do that? I mean, they haven't announced the full schedule.
Well, they did say that there was going to be, so many $1 million given away during the festival. I think that they'll keep the Met Mile this weekend. I think that they realize, especially considering the fact that the Belmont will be taking place in Saratoga, that all racing eyes will be on to see what's this going to look like, what's this going to feel like. Let me watch this special event. I think that they will agree that the handle for the Met Mile on the undercard of the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga will be higher than if it's run as a standalone on Memorial Day weekend or Memorial Day.
Looking at that. That's the wrong way of looking at that. You have to look at the value of it. You're not wrong in the facts that you said, but you have to look at it relative to how it would do compared to random race X, and how the Met Mile would do as the feature Memorial Day compared to whatever the feature X is on Memorial Day. So I get
it. No, I'm with you. I understand, but I'm just saying I don't think I think that the base logic to it will be enough for it to remain on Belmont weekend.
Take any of your Fox hats off. Let's just get horse player JK in here for a minute. What do you think about the idea of the Met Mile on the Wilson Chute? What do you think of the Wilson Chute in general? Because I found it to be quirky and not particularly appealing racing.
I don't know. I mean, look, do I want the Met Mile to always be run there? No. But I'd rather them do that than move the Met Mile to 1 1/8 miles.
We can agree on that.
Or move it back to 7 furlongs. I would prefer they don't do that. So, look, I mean, I think it's fine. I think it's fine when you have these talented, seasoned, athletic horses. Look, I have no issue with it. The draw matters in lots of races, so why wouldn't it matter in the Wilton Chute? Or the Wilson Chute, whatever the hell it's called. Just for a couple of, because there's the Wilton race, and I think it's the Wilson Chute, which is what throws me off. Yeah, I could care less. I mean, for 2 years, whatever,
You think it's a biased configuration, the Wilson Chute? It made it seem like
no. I just think that it's. I think that no, I don't actually think it's a biased situation. I think that it matters what horses draw where, but that's any situation, right? Yeah, I think if you are a kind of slow away from their horse, drawing the inside's not a great place to draw on the Wilson Chute. But if you're a fast tactical horse, drawing inside's fine. If you're a slow breaking horse, drawing from the outside, you're going to take over and make one run anyways. Doesn't make a difference. A fast horse from the outside should be able to clear. I think that it's more of a tactical horses do better, but that's dirt racing in general. So I'm not necessarily offended by that lean.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you got to figure they're going to run it there because you got to figure part of the reason the Wilson Chute exists is with people anticipating this day where there could be a Met Mile or two up north. So we're going to see. I don't love it, but I haven't. But then again, I haven't loved the Met Mile being on the Belmont undercard like ever. So I think the way. But what I do like, let's talk about something else that I think is really cool that I'm hoping they're going to do. So to me, there's been an absolute overkill with the stakes on Belmont Stakes Day. I don't think you ever need more than 6 stakes on a card, and days where you have years where you've had the Brooklyn as a walkout race it's not good with me. But with this committing to 4 days, and that we've heard this idea bandied about in the past about the Belmont Racing Festival downstate even becoming kind of like a mini Ascot. Well, what better time to experiment with that idea than these 4 days and have, as they've done in recent years, it's gotten more and more with the 3-day festival with having 3 stakes, 4 stakes, and then, 7, 8 to have 4 days with quality stakes racing every day. Yeah, I wouldn't go nuts over having to have, 9 stakes on Belmont Day. 6 is good, move everything else around, and all of a sudden you could have something really special from a racing product standpoint, in my opinion. Do you think that's how they'll do it? What do you think is going to go on as far as that goes?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think they leaned that way a little bit last year. On Friday, I believe they had 2 grade 1s, right? The Acorn was moved to Friday, as well as the New York, right? So I think that if you can find an extra grade 1 to pop on Thursday, to have Thursday with a grade 1, have a grade 1 on Friday, do what you got to do on Saturday, and then have a kind of a going away grade 1 on Sunday. I think that could be pretty cool as well. So I would imagine they'll try to spread it out. I mean, you're going to definitely get a stakes race or 2 every day. I think that's probably pretty certain. But yeah, that'd be cool to have a grade 1 at least every day.
I'm also curious to see what they do with the racing calendar coming into and going out of the Belmont. I'd love to see. Feels like when you get little breaks, you can sometimes have a racing product that comes back rejuvenated. Obviously, you got to figure everybody is going to be pointing to, no matter what kind of horse you have, people are going to want to race at Saratoga. So the idea of having like these little breaks, I think it really won't hurt anything. It'll just potentially make racing stronger downstate and upstate.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do. I mean, I guess there's a couple of, you make a good point there, right? Like moving all of that stuff is not easy. Moving all, you got to think it's not just, it's the TV trucks, it's the silks, it's the cameras. It's not like they have a camera at Saratoga and a camera at Belmont. They move those things around. Moving the sets, moving all the microphones, moving just, the jocks room, all of those things. The executives, I'm sure they're not going to move all of their stuff down to set up their entire offices, but I would think that they're going to have to do something that weekend before. I think ending racing at 6 o'clock on Sunday before moving down is a little bit dicey. I would think they might look to take that. Yeah, or maybe just that's at least that Sunday off. I know they hate to lose Saturdays if they don't have to, but maybe that Sunday off would be enough to give you that extra day of travel to get down there to get set up. And then coming back, I think you would see a similar situation, probably not starting until that next Friday. So losing those couple days of racing, or maybe 3 or 4 days of racing, really could bolster the product like you mentioned.
Yeah, because also when you think about it, I just don't think in those those cards on either side. I mean, yeah, there'll be some wise guys thinking, oh, maybe I have a better chance to win with everybody else pointing to Saratoga. But I would assume those fields might be a little bit leaner than they would normally. And I'd almost rather see, even if it does involve losing a Saturday, take some races away, get some people shooting for, before, where they could still maybe then come back and race at Saratoga, depending on the level of horse. There's a lot that goes into it. But, we're in good hands. We got people who know what they're doing, looking at all this stuff and hopefully coming up with the right solutions as far as that goes. What other thoughts do you have on this Saratoga Belmont situation?
Yeah, I was just thinking just like how much different it's going to be, I mean, considering, going down going downstate, I was thinking, the 2-year-old racing, some interesting, fun little stats I'm sure you'll be able to pull up because, there's never been a 2-year-old to run in June at Saratoga. So I'm sure there will be some nice little nuggets there. I'm sure Wesley Ward is licking his chops. Where does this fall in terms of Ascot? Right. Because it's before, right? Like right before.
Yeah, Ascot is, and I was relieved because when they were talking about maybe, gossip, nothing from our friends at NYRA, but there was rumors about, them maybe moving it a week or something. And had they done that, there would have been an Ascot conflict, and I would not have been happy about that. But for me, selfishly, moving the Triple Crown, I am moderately in favor of experimenting with the placement of the Triple Crown races. I'm guessing if it didn't happen this year, it's not going to happen for a while, just because it felt like if NYRA was ever going to have flexibility with moving the date, it would be a year they were doing it at a different venue anyway. Obviously, they didn't want to do that. But for me, selfishly, this winds up being amazing because it means no Memorial Day Preakness would have been tricky. It's just tricky. We all have things we do Memorial Day. It this year especially, it would have been tricky. But this year, I don't have a fabulous wedding in Italy to go to this year, but I do have the opportunity to go to Sweden, to go to their Kentucky Derby, the Elite Loppet. So now I'll be able to go to that, and it won't mess with my. It also won't mess with my Ascot schedule, which will be the following week. I'll look it up for sure, but I think it's like June 14th, June 15th. It's good with Perrin's school schedule this year because she's done before Ascot starts, which has in the past been obviously a bit of a difficult thing because I've missed like end of the year concerts and things like that. Won't have to do that. And then the extra benefit is Susan and Perrin will be able to come over and join me, hopefully us at Ascot for a couple of days. Any chance you're going to get there this year? Have you thought about it at all?
Look, I'm always drawing live to go. I've been wanting to go very badly for quite some time. So I like to think I'm always drawing live to get there. I just haven't made it happen. This year with the wedding, it wasn't able to do it. But yeah, I'm always drawing live, and so I'm hopeful. This would be a good year to do it. Maybe racing will have a little bit of a break, a little bit of a lull after being here and for Saratoga. So yeah, maybe.
Tuesday the 18th through Saturday the 22nd is Ascot. So, I mean, the timing is absolutely perfect to do both for those.
The other thing I wanted to tell our listeners now that I think about it, I was just looking. I looked at Amtrak at the train. On Saturday, June 8th, Belmont Day, you can get a coach seat for $35 from Moynihan. From Moynihan. So you can Moynihan. I'll explain that in a second. From Moynihan to Albany, which I find to be much easier, and then just Uber in rather than because there's the train times to get to Saratoga are very limited. You have a lot more options if you just get the Moynihan and just get off the train, get in an Uber. It's $30 and you're here. But I will say this: one of the best moves is to fly into JFK rather than Albany or LaGuardia, whichever one your airport flies to, because it's usually a direct from wherever you're coming from in the world to JFK or LaGuardia. And then it's a little cheaper too than flying into Albany. And then you can just take the train up. You just get to, you just take the I don't know what it's called. The air train. Take the air train down to Penn Station. You walk over to the Moynihan side. You get on the train, 2.5 hour shot, boom, boom, you're there. And it's $35. So that's another thing too. If hotels become too expensive, I would imagine that there's a world in which you could train up for the day. And then let's flip this and see what the latest train back is. If you're just trying to be a day tripper, it's a little tough. 740. You might be cutting it a little close on the 740, but at least one night stay, and then you can leave the next morning.
When you're looking at the bus, I'm sure there's other things you can do if you're not, morally opposed to riding the bus, which I still do once in a while. Once in a blue moon, I get desperate enough. I need to take the bus up. But in any case, it's going to be a great 4 days. We'll be doing stuff. I don't know exactly what, but I've had multiple conversations already. People coming out of the woodwork to talk about an In the Money live event up there, which is something we've never done for Belmont. But I think this year it might be the time to do that. You'd be up for something like that.
I'm gonna be so much more up for things, well rested in my own home rather than having to jump around a hotel and this, that, and the other. So yeah, it'll be nice.
No road games for you. All right. So I got to give you a hard time about something. I just don't understand how someone who pretends to be so much more technologically aware and frankly, just, digitally, in tune than me in general, can't figure out how to use the damn focus feature on his iPhone that Perrin has managed. You can make it so like when you're sleeping, you only get certain notifications. You don't need me. When I have insomnia and it's 4 a.m. and I need to fire off a bunch of texts, I hate the fact that you and Brittany Erton are the two people in the world who have ever told me, please don't text me in the middle of the night. So I try to honor that, but come on, guys, just get the focus feature going. It'll be fine.
Well, so I'm not going to hit you at the undefeated, but I am going to hit you. The one reason I don't put my phone on Do Not Disturb is because Austin's not always in my house.
What I'm saying is you can have it so that anyone who could possibly text you or call you
break through can break through. I know. You're right. No, but it doesn't actually bother me. I don't wake up when I hear my phone vibrate.
Huh. But just like sometimes I'm giving me a hard time, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the whole thing at the beginning of JK+1 is to just try to find a way to kind of poke at you a little bit. And that morning, it just happened to be that one. Yeah.
That's very, very funny. Well,
yeah, you can actually, fair enough. You can do a lot with the different focus things. You can do some really good stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of tools on there that are good to have in your tool belt as somebody who does, half their job on the phone for sure, as I'm sure many of our viewers and listeners do as well. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment of what you think about Belmont at Saratoga. Will you be there? Where will you stay? What do you think about all these issues we've been bandying back and forth and debating about as far as that goes? And if you're just listening to the podcast in the normal places, go over to YouTube and do it. Actually, comments are a great way to help us out, especially on the YouTube platform. It's very, very responsive to that kind of stuff. And I promise I'm going to get better about trying to answer and engage with people because it's a nice little way to create a community. But what else have you heard? I've had so many people come out of the woodwork and, what my great friend Doug Ramsdell told me he'd be taking the house that weekend. So we've had that approach. We've also had a lot of people requesting space in the Degenerate Flop House. At this point, I don't know. We may set a record. We may break a Travers record where we've had people sleeping in the bathtub of the number of people who are going to be there, at least for Saturday night. What have you been hearing from your crew?
Well, Austin's going to be here, so that's one room down. We've actually just the Salivo crew as a whole have been all thinking about like renting out our houses. And just like ours is the closest house to the racetrack. G's parents are a little bit further out. Ronnie a little bit further out, but we're all thinking about renting out 2 of the 3 houses and then all staying at one. But we're going to wait till we get a little bit closer to see what those numbers are going to be. I would imagine they'll be pretty high, considering if the Adelphi is $3,000 a night, do the math on a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom house, and suddenly the numbers could be intriguing. Pick 5 money, pick 6 money.
Oh, exactly. You're free rolling the whole damn weekend if you get that done. You mentioned Des before. I put a note about her in the newsletter last week. I'll mention it here too. And if I think of it, I'll pop it in the show notes too. She is in a bartending contest at the moment, and we want to show support. She's been such an ally to horse players, and all the time she's been at Saratoga. We can now support her by voting for her to win this contest, which comes with money and all other kinds of honors. It's Bar Boss. You could probably find it, but with this link, it's very easy. Voting continues just for a few more days. So if you're hearing this and you want to support Des or do something cool for us, right away go there and cast your vote. Hopefully, she's going to be able to take that down and make us some nice cocktails to celebrate when we see her at Belmont at Saratoga, even if I won't be setting foot in the paddock bar.
Oh man, that's the Italian. That's definitely the Italian in you.
Sicilian, more specifically, but yes. Yeah. We'll say. Well, when I finally make my long-awaited JK+1 appearance, we can. When you get that week, you get really hard up for a guest. I promise, I'll tell that story. Speaking of JK+1, what you got cooking?
We had Brittany Urton last week, which was a lot of fun. Recently, if you missed, we had Craig Milkowski that was good.
That was good. Very, very numbers oriented, excellent conversation for the the hardcore horse players among you.
Yeah, I missed a call. I'll say this. I don't know if it's going to happen now or later in the fall or later in the winter, early next year. I'll find out after this. I have to call this person back, but there was a call and a conversation about having Pat Cummings and Mike Rapoli to kind of give us an update on what's going on, what the plans are, what the thoughts are, and what's going on there. So if it doesn't happen now, or if they want to wait a little while to get a bit more ducks in a row, we'll see. So that could be a potential for this week. And
will Mike live tweet the appearance?
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, well, I hope so. So yeah, that's what I know for now. And then I'm still going to try to lock down Chad before the end of the year. He's in Florida, and so we missed each other here. So we'll try to get him before the end of the year, depending on travel. But we'll get him early next year for sure.
Christmas present to the viewers, if you can get that one. If you can get that one out, is he coming back, or is he in Florida for the duration though?
No, he comes back, but then he's like but then we leave, and then he comes back, and so it's a little tricky.
It'll happen when it happens, but that's eagerly awaited to get to hear from him in that format. The Pat and Mike one, in all seriousness, sounds awesome. I've been dying to have Pat on to talk about a whole bunch of things. Basically, I still need him to explain to me all that crazy pool nonsense from the other week that I still can't get my brain around. I need Pat to explain that to me, but maybe we'll wait and let him talk to you on JK+1. But we'll have that production meeting outside the show. We are pressed for time right now, my friend, unless you have a closing thought to share.
No, looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun. Belmont Saratoga, a little bit different, but Richie Migliori said it's what do you say? It's damn, what do you say? An American, American tradition, or an American's traditional race, or something at American's traditional racetrack, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I hear where he's going.
Tweet Mig. He'll tell you what it was. I've been messing up Mig-isms all week, so why not stop now?
Yeah, keep it going. Everybody needs a good editor, Jonathan. That's the truth. All right, we are out of here. Really fun to catch up with you, JK, and we'll be back later in the week. Lots of content coming. Gulfstream Pick 3 shows. We'll have a bunch of other coverage of racing around the country as well, including Turfway and NYRA. But that's going to do it for this show. Thank you one more time, JK. Thanks to our founding partners, Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation and 10 Strike Racing. Hopefully we'll get to root for the purple and black right up there during Belmont at Saratoga. The show's been a production of In the Money Media. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.